Welcome to the virtual public input meeting for the U.S. Highway 52 reconstruction project located in Jamestown, North Dakota, from 7th Street South to 4th Avenue Southwest. My name is Dan McNeil from SRF Consulting Group, and on behalf of the North Dakota Department of Transportation and the City of Jamestown, we would like to thank you for taking time out of your day to review the information that will be presented here today. During this presentation, I will discuss the project purpose and need, project location, project schedule, project background and feedback collected to date, traffic analysis and proposed alternatives, other project considerations, and preliminary cost estimate and next steps. The goal of the public input meeting is to solicit feedback from the public and answer any questions about the project. This is an important part of the design process and project success. You can provide comments on the proposed improvements by Friday, May 3rd, by mail or email to the contact information that will be provided at the end of the presentation. All comments that will be submitted will be included in the environmental document. The US 52 project limits start at 4th Avenue Southwest at the bottom of Mill Hill, crosses the James River, and goes through US 52 and 10th Street Southeast intersection to the north to 7th Street Southeast. US 52 will be a concrete reconstruction from 4th Avenue Southwest to the US 52 and 10th Street Southeast intersection, including replacement of the existing bridges over the James River. Reconstruction will conclude where the proposed intersection improvements tie into US 52, 10th Street Southeast, and 1st Avenue South to the north and east. Pavement markings will be replaced on 1st Avenue South/US 52 between the intersection reconstruction and 7th Street Southeast to ensure connectivity to the 3-lane roadway section that runs to the north along US 52. Improvements to the pedestrian facilities and the addition of pedestrian crossings will also be included, along with the replacement of storm sewer, lighting, and signage. The main objectives, purpose, and need of the project is to replace the deteriorating roadway pavement and bridges, maintain vehicular mobility and access to local streets and businesses, improve the pedestrian environment, facilities, and local connections, and improve this important connection to the surrounding transportation corridors, supporting local and regional mobility. The project schedule has several key milestones that need to be met before the project can be constructed. Several milestones and work have been completed up to this point. One of the first milestones is the field review, which is the first look at existing conditions in the project area. This was completed in January of 2023. An initial public input meeting was held in August of 2023, where local businesses and users of the corridor were invited to share their feedback on how they use the corridor and what improvements they would like to see. Following that meeting, the project team analyzed existing and future traffic conditions and develop roadway alternatives and intersection options that satisfy the purpose and need of the project. Those design concepts are ready for public input, which brings us to where we are today with public input meeting number 2. This presentation and comment period allows the public to ask questions and provide feedback on the project alternatives. Next is the environmental documentation process, which looks at environmental impacts for the proposed alternatives. During this phase, project decisions are made by agencies to move forward with final design and construction. The tentative completion dates include final design plans in May of 2026, with tentative construction in 2027. These dates depend on several factors and are subject to change. US 52 beyond and through the project area is the most traveled corridor in Jamestown, and is projected to grow according to the 2015 Land Use Transportation Plan. This project was listed in the 2020 audit of that plan by local stakeholders to be the highest ranked project in need of safety improvements. This was confirmed by the feedback received from the first public input meeting, where a vast majority of comments focused on the poor condition of pedestrian facilities and lack of crossing opportunities. Other comments received included the desire for dedicated left turn lanes, maintaining access to businesses, and improvements to corridor landscaping and aesthetics. Our team used the data collected to analyze the traffic counts, crash history, and public feedback to develop design alternative and options to be considered for the project. Throughout the preliminary design process, we heard from stakeholders and the public that safer pedestrian crossings are a priority. The crossings are essential to provide connectivity and safe opportunities to access the adjacent park, residential areas, and local businesses. All the alternatives have 2 pedestrian crossings on US 52 between Mill Hill and the James River, which will be discussed in more detail in a few slides. In addition, all of the intersection options for US 52 and 10th Street Southeast will have crosswalks. In addition to pedestrian needs, a component of this project was to look at existing roadway average daily traffic volumes, also known as ADTs, compare them to future needs, and determine the appropriate future roadway capacity. As you can see on this slide, the 2022 volumes range from around 13,000 to 21,000 vehicles per day. These volumes were increased by 1.1% annually to develop the year 2045 volumes, which aligns with the projected population and employment growth following a similar pattern. The future ADT of 25,700 vehicles tells us that US 52 west of the river must continue to be a 4-lane roadway. One of the goals of the study is for First Avenue South to tie into the 3-lane design that is north of 10th Street Southeast intersection. This 3-lane transition to the north will happen through revised pavement markings and signing. The traffic analysis led to the development of intersection options and US 52 corridor alternatives. When developing the design options and alternatives, the team focused on making sure we provided the desired improvements to satisfy the purpose and need of the project. This includes ADA compliant and improved pedestrian environment with the addition of 2 pedestrian crossings west of the James River, full intersection access at 4th Avenue Southwest, reduced driveway access and conflict points to improve safety, replacement of storm sewer and lighting, separation of the sidewalk from the roadway and parking lots, and replacement of the striping between 10th Street Southeast and US 52 intersection and 7th Street Southeast to connect to the existing 3-lane roadway to the north. Certain design elements were also desired to be similar across the alternatives and options, including maintaining the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, 12-foot lane widths for all through and turn lanes, greater than 5-foot sidewalks wherever possible, and boulevards to provide buffers between the roadway and pedestrians. As mentioned, 2 pedestrian crossings are anticipated to be incorporated west of the James River. These are a part of all project alternatives. The first one is on the west end of the project at 4th Avenue Southwest and 12th Street Southwest. This can be located on either the west or east side of the intersection. The second location is between Riverside Drive and 2nd Avenue Southwest. The concept currently shows this closer to 2nd Avenue Southwest, but can be moved further west. Both locations should include pedestrian crossing signs on both sides of US 52 and in the median, and would be equipped with flashing beacons to ensure traffic is alerted to crossing pedestrians when present. Both locations will be finalized during final design as a result of feedback and coordination with stakeholders. Moving forward, out of the analysis are 4 options at the US 52 and 10th Street Southeast intersection and 5 corridor alternatives for US 52 west of the James River. The 4 intersection options we will look at and ask for feedback on are option 1, radial T, option 2, double crossovers, option 3, displaced left turns, option 4, a roundabout. Corridor alternatives that are being evaluated are alternative A, no build, an alternative that is required to be included for all projects, but does not address the needs of the corridor. Build alternatives include alternative B, 5-lane with 2-way left turn lane, alternative C, 4-lane full intersection access with raised medians, alternative D, 4-lane, 3/4 intersection access with raised medians. And alternative E, 4-lane, right-in, right-out intersection access with raised medians. Starting with the US 52 and 10th Street Southeast intersection, option 1 is the most conventional of all of the options, with a 3-legged radial T configuration. The north and east legs both have 2 lanes to go west on US 52, with all other movements having 1 lane. This intersection has 1 traffic signal with pedestrian crossings and refuges on all 3 legs that are protected by the signal. Option 2 is the double crossover configuration. There are 3 signals, with the outer 2 located near 2nd Avenue Southwest and 2nd Avenue Southeast. At those outer signals, traffic wanting to make a left-hand turn at the intersection must cross over. Traffic making that movement from US 52 to stay on US 52 North, 1st Avenue South, would then make a left turn movement at the middle signal. Traffic from 10th Street Southeast going west on US 52 would do a second crossover movement at the west signal. All right turn movements go straight through the outer signal locations. All 3 signalized intersections have pedestrian crossings and refuges and can be protected by the signal. 2nd Avenue Southeast becomes a right-in, right-out intersection for side street users with this option. The additional raised medians can be used for landscaping or aesthetics. Similar to option 2, option 3, or the displaced left turns option, contains the same double crossover at 2nd Avenue Southeast, with the same movements and reduction in access for side street users, but does not include a 3rd signal near 2nd Avenue Southwest. In this option, the westbound left turn movements from 10th Street Southeast are able to make their movements at the same time as the southbound left turn movements to the going east on 10th Street Southeast. This allows pedestrians to cross US 52 lanes into the center median at the main signal. When the US 52 movements that continue on US 52 North, 1st Avenue South, have the green movement, pedestrians are then able to move freely north and south on the east leg of the intersection. Option 4, the last intersection option, is the roundabout. The roundabout would have 2 lanes entering and exiting on all 3 legs, with pedestrian crossings, refuges, and pedestrian crossing signs and flashing beacons to alert traffic. Right turn movements are able to move freely in the roundabout with dedicated lanes for those movements. The roundabout also allows the ability for users to make U-turn movements from all directions by entering the left-hand lane. Depending on the finalized roundabout configuration, it is likely that acquisition of property in the northeast corner of the intersection will be required. Minimal to no impacts to parking will occur to the current businesses on this property. Like previously mentioned, 4 intersection options are under consideration at the main intersection of 1st Avenue South and 10th Street Southeast. All of these designs offer acceptable levels of service, or the amount of delay and distance that vehicles queue up. The level of service for the radial T is either a B or C, depending on the approach leg. The double crossover option has longer delay and queues than the radial T, with up to level of service D on the west and east legs of the intersection. The displaced left option also has levels of service B and C, but has the longest queues, especially on the southwest side of the intersection. The roundabout has the best operating levels of service. The queue lengths of the roundabout are also the shortest of all of the options evaluated, except for the east approach, which is only 50 feet longer than the others. Moving to the west side of the James River on US 52, we will start with alternative B, which is very similar to the existing configuration, with 5 lanes, which includes 2 lanes for each direction and a center 2-way left turn lane. This option maintains access to all movements to and from side streets, as well as most of the movements to and from private driveways. And safety that is being proposed with this alternative is realigning the Riverside Drive approach with the 10th Avenue Southwest approach to eliminate the existing skew. On this slide, you can see a rendering of the 5-lane section for alternative B. This illustrates the skinnier outside lanes when compared to existing, which provides additional room for boulevard between the sidewalk and roadway and where lighting and trees can be placed. It also shows the space between the sidewalk and adjacent properties or parking lots. Alternative C, the 4-lane full intersection access with raised medians, replaces most of the center two-way left turn lane with a raised median. This removes left turn movements for most private driveways and eliminates those conflict points along the corridor. The raised medians also provide additional opportunity for landscaping and aesthetics and can help create a calming effect along the corridor, reducing speeds of vehicular movement. With the inclusion of dedicated left turn movements, all side street intersections with this alternative remain full access, meaning all movements in and out are allowed. Realignment of Riverside Drive and 10th Street Southwest is also proposed with this alternative. This slide shows a rendering of the 4-lane section and raised center median for alternative C, as well as the next two alternatives. The outside of the roadway is similar to alternative B in the benefits with the boulevard and space between the adjacent properties, but these alternatives get rid of the middle lane and allow for an area of tree plantings or planter beds. In alternative C and D, this median would reduce in size to allow for a left turn lane at Riverside Drive / 10th Street Southwest, and then again at 2nd Avenue Southwest. Alternative D would continue this median all the way to the 10th Street Southeast intersection, as we will discuss in upcoming slides. Alternative D, the 4-lane, 3/4 intersection access with raised medians, further limits access and reduces conflict points by extending the raised medians further into the intersections of 4th Avenue Southwest and 2nd Avenue Southwest, and a raised median between Riverside Drive and 10th Street Southwest. This eliminates all left turn movements onto US 52, but still allows for left turn movements for US 52 traffic to enter side streets. Realignment of realignment of Riverside Drive and 10th Street Southwest is proposed with this alternative, similar to the previous alternatives. With this alternative, intersection option 4, the roundabout, would be the only recommended option. That would allow vehicles traveling east to be able to make a U-turn at the roundabout and access businesses and side streets on the north side of US 52. Those on the north side of US 52 would have to utilize local roads to make their way to 4th Avenue Southwest and 12th Street Southwest to make a left and go eastbound on US 52. Alternative E a 4-lane right-in, right-out intersection access with raised medians, is the last corridor alternative and the most restrictive when it comes to access. A full raised median replaces all left turn movements for US 52, making all entrances and exits a right-in, right-out access, and results in this alternative having the least amount of conflict points. Similar to alternative D, U-turn movements and local road reroutes are required for users wanting to go left on US 52. So option 4 is the only recommended intersection option for this alternative. Additionally, no realignment of Riverside Drive and 10th Street Southwest is needed due to the median blocking any movement from one side of US 52 to the other. The graphics shown here illustrate the movements that would be needed to be made, with left turn movements not being able to be made in alternatives D and E. The graphic on the left illustrates the local routes that could be taken in green that would get users to 12th Street Southwest and make a left turn onto US 52. The blue route illustrates the path taken for those on US 52 heading westbound that want to access the south businesses or Riverside Drive. The graphic on the right illustrates the U-turn movement being made at the roundabout intersection option for eastbound traffic and users entering US 52 from the south that want to access the north side of US 52 or head westbound. The existing 2 bridges over the James River will be replaced with 1 bridge. The new bridge will overall have a narrower footprint than the existing bridges together. The new bridge will include 10-foot wide pedestrian/bike paths on both sides. The new bridge will look similar for all of the different intersection options. Due to the state right-of-way available, most right-of-way impacts will be temporary easements to allow the contractor to work and construct the improvements near the right-of-way line. Partial permanent acquisitions will be needed to realign Riverside Drive and 10th Street Southwest, as well as in the northeast corner of the 10th Street Southeast intersection, depending on the option selected. Within the project limits, there are 16 total private accesses. We will be coordinating with property owners to discuss how they and their customers utilize their property and determine if there is opportunity to close or consolidate an access that doesn't negatively impact their business. We have identified 7 potential locations for this, and we'll be discussing these locations with the property owners further. As previously mentioned, the amount of right-of-way available and possible raised medians presents opportunities for landscaping and aesthetics. Some examples that may be explored are tree plantings in the boulevards and medians, planting beds where width requirements are allowed, and the delineation of sidewalk from adjacent parking lots, which can be done with raised curbs, painted boulevards, or decorative fencing. Environmental considerations for this project will include limiting or eliminating impacts to the park property south of the US 52 and 10th Street Southeast intersection. No cultural resource or historic buildings are expected to be impacted with the project. The bridge construction will require looking at floodplain impacts, wetland impacts, and accommodations for animals traveling along the river's edge. Mitigation measures will be included in the plans in coordination with the applicable agencies to acquire permits, and approval will be part of finalizing the project. Anticipated construction cost estimate ranges have been developed for the alternatives and options that have been presented here today. These are preliminary estimates and will be subject to change as the project development process continues. The corridor alternative cost estimates all range between $4.7 million and $7.8 million, with alternative B being slightly higher and alternative E being slightly lower than the rest. The replacement of the bridges over the James River will be between $3.6 and $5.8 million. The intersection options range from $3.4 million to $5.8 million, with option 1 being slightly lower and option 3 being slightly higher than the rest. Depending on the combination of which alternative is paired with which intersection option, the estimated total construction cost for the project is between $11.7 and $19.4 million. To the right of the table, the estimated federal, state, and city of Jamestown cost shares are shown. These preliminary cost estimates will be part of the decision-making process, along with other considerations, including environmental, social, and economic impacts, functionality, corridor longevity, and your public input. This concludes the presentation on the US 52 reconstruction project alternatives in Jamestown, North Dakota, from 7th Street Southeast to 4th Avenue Southwest virtual public input meeting. If you have questions, comments, or recommendations on which alternatives or options you prefer, please provide written comments mailed to SRF Consulting Group, Inc., attention Scott Harmstead, 2370 Vermont Avenue, Bismarck, North Dakota, 58504, or email at sharmstead@srfconsulting.com with the subject Virtual Public Input Meeting -PCN 23630. All comments must be postmarked or emailed by May 3rd, 2024. Following this presentation, I encourage you to fill out the North Dakota Department of Transportation Title VI Public Participation Survey by clicking on the Title 6 survey link located on the North Dakota Department of Transportation Public Input Meetings webpage, where you found this video, shown in the top image. As stated in the description, this survey is conducted to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to comment on the transportation programs and activities that may affect their community. The results will be collected as data to ensure inclusion of all segments of the population that may be affected, including those with language barriers or those requiring public assistance. Your participation in the survey would be greatly appreciated, but is optional. Thank you for attending this virtual public input meeting. We look forward to hearing from you.